I asked the New Element Discord what I should potentially name a few of these series. Join a Judge was my kind of one. Scrutinize with Sammy, I actually like that one. I think that it's probably going to be one of these when the video goes up. Splitting Hairs with Sammy, I like that. Sammy Summary, Sam Slams, that one's good. Sam looks at RCT except it's personal. Ballpit Warrior knows how it is. I also like Score It with Sam, you know. Slippery Sam, Silver Tongue, Sass Blast. That's for if I'm in the Old West and I'm doing reviews of, I don't know, honky tonk pianos. So thank you to everyone at New Element who threw the name in the ring for that one. Love that. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Sammy looks at some parks and decides just exactly how he's going to allocate his all-important vote. Here we are looking at the DKMP Ride Creation Contest 78 Reverser Coaster Contest. Up top, I'd like to thank everyone for your comments, your likes, all of that stuff. All of those actions go a long way to letting YouTube know that you're enjoying this content and that YouTube should show the content to people that are just like us. And in turn, that helps expand our lovely, lovely community. And that's what we want. So without further ado, let's go get inside of it. We're going to go alphabetical, just like last time. So we're starting with Big Al. Did we start with Big Al last time? And this is the Reverser Coaster Contest, for those who are unaware. And thematically, it's a winter wonderland. You can see here straight away, we've got part of that reverser coaster used as scenery there, which I really appreciate. Part of the feedback that we got last time was that we should be more brutal with stuff, because that, obviously, as we all know, is the best way to learn. If someone just is a straight shooter, fires from the hip, it's obviously the best way. This one's really cool. It's got a really clear aesthetic, which you love to see, and executed with a high degree of consistency, which is perhaps an underappreciated factor in all of this. Something that jumps out to me off the bat. It can be a bit funny sometimes, because in a review like this, where I'm not doing like a more considered authored review, I might jump to negatives before I reach positives, and I don't typically like to do that, because typically there's something that you can compliment and then you can get into the criticism. But I'm just gonna trust that you guys know that I'm not mean for the sake of being mean, and there is a point to all of this. I don't like, I understand why you did it. You raise this land around the edge to give it that feeling like it's just this thin strip, and the aesthetic's really nice. However, it does compromise our ability to understand the scale of things, because we intuitively understand from the height of this that this part would be higher than this part over here, which is lower, which has like a lower height value. But we can't do that, because instead we've got this jagged edge which is concealing part of the height. So you look at this part over here and it's like, well, where is this? Is this going into a hole? Is this like on raw land edge? And it gets a bit confusing. So there's an element of making life easy for the viewer to comprehend what it is they're looking at. And some people might hear that and go, well, why are we babying the viewer? Surely the viewer can think about it and understand. And you'd be right about that. You know, sometimes the audience should put in the effort to comprehend what's going on. So there's certainly a balance there to strike between not unnecessarily encumbering the audience's ability to comprehend what it is they're looking at, and doing something that's like exciting and challenging for them to look at. And it's a tough line to walk. I really love this little area here with like the fire pit type object here and the benches all around. That is really cool. Let's have a look inside. We've got an underground path that goes up to inside. Let's watch it out of this station here. It goes down, and guys, it reverses, but not in the way that you were expecting. That is right. It is reversing via clever track hacking, because obviously in the game as we know it, there is no way without hacking to achieve these things, but luckily we do have hacks, and thank goodness for that, because this allows Big Al to show off their track layering skills to achieve this really fun backwards and forwards adventure in this winter wonderland. I don't understand what the name is. Silent G, one may presume. Man, you'd be so fuming if you got on this ride. You went up, and there is inconsistent backwards and forwards-age going on here, isn't there? That's quite fun. And then these poor folks go from down here to up there. They get no ride at all, and they have to get off. Cruelty, as I see it. So I kind of like this ride. One thing that I'll criticize is that it's very orthogonal. It's not got many surprises in terms of diagonals, and I am not sure like how much capability we have for diagonal track on these. Do we have diagonal track here? We don't have diagonal track. So it's something that you may have to dip into other track types to achieve diagonals. The rules for this one are very similar to the previous one that we looked at. There is a smaller map limit, and also you have to obviously do a reverser roller coaster. But it does say here you're allowed to splice in short sections of other track. The track must have at least one reverser element. So those are the rules that we've got to follow here. Very, very simple. So I would certainly indulge some diagonal track just to get a little bit of a different thing going on. I think it would have gone down a treat. But in terms of what we actually have and not what we're dreaming of having, I think there's a really nice amount of drama here with these spikes that head up, and also you've got heading back up the hill. It just makes for a different experience of that element, which I think is really nice. We're struggling here with lack of plazaing. We've got like a really nice one here, but it's not really for anything. Yeah, there's a fountain, but it's almost like this is more of a focal point over here with this like stage this is staged like a stage, but this is staged as a plaza but doesn't really plaza much of anything. It's sort of a dead end. So I would definitely think of viewing your paths as more of a main character and not something that skirts around and through stuff. That's something it can do. I'm not criticizing that as a thing to do. I'm criticizing it as the main way you communicate your paths. And what you've got to remember is the path is the main way that your guests are going to be experiencing the park. So the same degree of care that you've put into going, well, we've got to do a spike here, that'll be really thrilling for them, and like off this cliff here, that's going to be thrilling. We should be thinking of our path like that as well. And you have in elements, because here you were definitely like, this is such a cool, like overlooking the cliff, we've got this little lake here, really cool moment. But if you move through your park making process with that as the main thing you're considering for the paths, you'll make a much more interesting experience. I've penciled in some scores for this one. I think I'm going to come back through and vote tomorrow on these because I think they all deserve a second look. All in all, really fun, Christmassy Winter Wonderland type creation going on here. I think it's appropriate to have this sort of switchback track be applied in this sort of way. I think it's a shame that you did your reverser element underground. It's almost like you were trying to just fulfill the rule as opposed to using the rules to leverage something that's going to heighten the experience. Yes, really fun to see. Let's move on to the next one, shall we? Here we are, we're looking at Booskop here. Oh, this is really fun. I like just seeing colourful themes sometimes. And we're back in Candyland. We saw a little taste of Candyland in the last competition. Maybe the pinks and the whites and the baby blues are more common over in the DKMP side of things. Because it feels like we're having a big drought of it over at New Element. We need more exciting colours like this. We can see that Booskop has been dipping into these other track types here, which I appreciate. We've just got, this looks like stand-up coaster track, or yeah, this looks like stand-up coaster track, doesn't it? Which is just used to supplement what we have here, which I think it goes down a real treat, if you'll pardon the pun. We've got some diagonals coming in here. So already it's a more dynamic experience because of that. I also like the shaping that's going on along here. It looks like we've got a fully peepable, like, kids play park here. Look at this. They're just queuing up to go down the slide. This is a really fun little park here. This one, I'm actually really enjoying this one. It has like a fun sense of, it feels almost classic Roller Coaster Tycoon. You know, that thing that we often see from builders like Lurker and Lucas and builders like that. I really feel that coming through here for whatever reason. It's also nice to see the splashdown element. I'm not sure if it can actually interact in any meaningful way with that element, but it's nice to see. Again, it looks like we've just got like a cursory reverse here and a cursory reverse here, which I don't think is pushing into the most compelling use of this ride type. It feels almost like you're just trying to fulfill that rule parameter, which I think is a bit of a shame. I like this big structure in the middle. It doesn't look like a body part at all. I don't know why you'd think that. We've got a dentist here. It's got a great sense of fun. That's really cool. Big toothbrush sculpture there. But again, we've got some, this is a nice plaza here. We come in, we see this in the middle. That's like a nice plaza. But the ride entrance doesn't come off the plaza. You've got to walk up a path and then you've kind of got to turn your head to see this. We could have had this more leading off this plaza quite easily as well, it feels like. And then we've got right angles as we come along here. What use is this? We've just got to do a right angle, have it curve around. You've nailed that over here. This is perfect. But then we're coming at right angles here. It's not natural, you know? There's no reason for it to be at that right angle. And even if there was a reason why it was at that right angle, I'd say make it so there isn't a reason for it being at that right angle. It's just not worth it. But it is really cool to see this sort of, this has almost taken on like a Wild Mouse aesthetic, hasn't it? Which I really appreciate. It's a fun, dynamic ride here. It's not mind-blowing. I don't think we're gonna see any, like, it depends how you vote, isn't it? Are you voting purely in the vacuum of the round that you're voting in, or are you voting for them in comparison to previous rounds? There's nothing in the rules about what's right and what's wrong. I could come in here and put whatever numbers I want, that it's my vote, I get to use it how I like. And I don't think there's going to be any issue of like cheating using votes here, but maybe there has in the past, I simply don't know. So in the spirit of that, what's the fairest way for me to interpret a round that has a ride that's much more challenging to make exciting compared to a different one? Inverted coaster, extremely dynamic and interesting ride type with inversions, and it can go really tall. Reverser coaster is a lot more limited in a lot of ways, but it has those unique qualities that we know and love. So how do we view these things in comparison? Maybe we don't. Maybe it's wrong to view these things in comparison. Really cohesive sort of aesthetic here. I think the only thing which doesn't quite fit in cohesively is maybe this building here, because the rest of them are quite heightened, aren't they? All of the rest of these are really quite Candyland. We're going to have the issue of me yawning again in this one. I'm really sorry. It's very late. I've not got much time to make this, and then I'm going to edit it tomorrow and get it out to you guys. So I am sure you will tolerate a little bit of yawning, and you won't take it personally, okay? And no, this doesn't look like a body part. Why do you keep thinking that? Honestly, guys, grow up. Interesting. Thank you very much to Buskop for submitting this. 20 entries, I think, this time, which means we've got a lot to get through. So let's move on to Bowen. Oh, yes. Is it Bowen? Somebody did tell me that how to pronounce it, but I've forgotten already. I'm a bad YouTuber. I'm sorry, guys. But we did a little bit of office hours with some Bowen work. I think it's Bowen. I apologize. I can only apologize. And that was super awesome. So I'm excited to see. I think I released that video too late in the game to meaningfully help Bowen. So we shan't be looking at this going, why didn't you follow my advice? Not that I'd do that anyway, obviously, but you get what I mean. We've got some diagonal track in here. You love to see it. You appreciate what I mean when I say that, don't you? That these diagonals along here, they do a lot to help it feel more dynamic. And I like this situation that we've got going on here, where we've tiered these similar tracks here, and we've got the waterfall in the background. That adds a nice degree of drama. And again, we're able to pick out these interesting structures that Buin's created. We've got a fun fall-themed park here with these like nice oranges and reds and golds. It's nice to see a gag here with the car that's poking off the top there. And this is just a really fun layout. Should we watch it from the station? Our station is here, I believe. We've got the right angle there. I think with like a more scenic ride type like this, I think it's completely fair to have something like a turn in the chain lift. What this would mean is that there would have to be another chain lift motor, another chain lift basically in its entirety here. But we watch it as it comes around there, goes onto the turntable, flips around, but we are back to straightforward along this back face here. You've done a really good job of staging this ride in a fun way. I think there's definitely more to be plumbed from this idea, but I like how you've done what you've done. I like these dual switchbacks here. That just feels really cool and worthwhile. And then we drop down here, and I get the feeling that we're going to disappear underground in this next part, because I looked earlier. We go underground and back around here. This is another one where it has like a really fun, like classic feeling to it. When I look at this, it feels like a, you know, original base game park kind of thing, but modernized into the way that we know and love today. I will repeat something that I mentioned in last Ride Creation Contest video. When we do this scattershot coloring of trees, it looks so bad. I'm so sorry. It just looks so unfocused. What you can do is color them in a more meaningful fashion to accentuate or contour the same way that you would anything else that you put down. Think of it in the same way that you've like layered these tracks here to accentuate this. You should be doing that sort of design choice, but with your foliage as well. So clumping together the colours would perhaps give more focus to that fall idea, as opposed to it being literally like scattershot. You zoom out and you're given no clues about the nature of this composition. Based on the colours of the trees, they do nothing but distract from the thrust you're trying to make with every single other thing that you're plopping in the map. It's challenging, don't get me wrong guys, I'm not saying this as if you're really daft for doing it the way you've done it. I guess all I'm doing is commenting on the results of the decisions that you made. It is challenging, so I hope you guys don't think I'm calling you daft for no reason, because you're not daft, you're all really skilled and talented, but you can be more skilled and talented. Yes, this is really cool. I like how you've foregone the wooden supports as well by just layering up a spine of monorail track to support it instead. It gives a really unique aesthetic. Really fun to see. I like this little area you've got over here. Just nice and modest, nothing insane, but it gets the job done, you know? Interesting. I really have to consider what I'm going to vote for all of these. Very interesting. Thank you to Buin, Bowen, Boom. You just get to pick whichever one's correct there. Numbered 1 to 5, or however many there was. Thank you very much. Let's leap on to the next one. Time is of the essence. Carp Runner and Michelle. Or Michael. Who knows? Certainly not me. So straight off the bat, it feels like we've got an extremely vivid aesthetic going on here, which is probably going to come as no surprise to the people who watched the last video and saw Carp Runner's contribution there. I'm less familiar with the other builder, Michael or Michelle, or whatever your name is. My apologies to everybody for how badly I pronounce everything. I'm sorry! It's a really vivid aesthetic. You've got some really cool flat rides going on here, but we do have a little bit of path everywhere-itis, don't we? Directionless path-itis. I think this structure along here does less for us than we might expect. It's just one of those choices where I understand why you made it, but I don't think it did you the most favors ever. I think just having like a straight expanse like this, I maybe would have pushed out this edge a little bit more here. So if we just maybe grab this element here I think maybe even if you just do something like this, right? And it just comes out a little bit more here. That does a lot to facilitate when it dips in here and comes back out here. Having this straight edge along here, I think does you fewer favors than you might anticipate. Let's jump back to the old one, so that's something to bear in mind here. It just doesn't feel quite right having this straight line all along here. I think there's maybe a bit more that could have been done to smuggle this design choice in. So this one feels like it has like a really vivid story behind it. Obviously we've got Roman stuff going along here. Got biggest dickus dangling, dingle dangling no less. But this building's really neat here. It's really fun to see such detailed buildings being done in DKSO. You guys have really gone a long way to master what's going on here. We've got fishing line, fishing bobber. It looks like it's a sign that goes to make this fishing rod. Yes, I'm getting good at this now. Cool boats going on here. You love to see it. Nice framing of this waterfall in the bay as well. I feel like maybe there's a bit more that we can do to push this waterfall a little more. It looks a bit flat, but it's really great that you created this way to nest this idea, to really like focus it in on this. But I feel like we're getting like most of the way there and it's not quite getting pushed over the edge for me. And really, really cool use of this diagonal and this support structure going on here. Just awesome. Really, really cool idea over the mouth of the bay like that. You love to see it. And this is really, really so cool you've got here. It's really cool and I like how you've done it, but from like a peep size perspective, it's sort of a bit nothing. Like, what is this tiered system you've got here for? It's great for me looking at it, but I'm considering from the peep's eye as well. If this was more like positioned in such a way as to draw in guests and make them want to ride it the same way that I do as like a viewer of this park, I think that would have been really awesome. So this is like a good use of foliage here to like, from this side it's less sexy, but here you've got that like tiering pyramid sort of idea going on to like really sort of mold and direct the experience of the viewer. But on the back it's just a bit of a, you know, pegs on the back of Homer Simpson type deal we've got going on here. This is a really cool sort of colonnade thing we've got going on here. Nice structure going on here. And then as we head up in this direction, I think that like when we look at this part along, sort of like along here through across here, this is staged really, really well. It just really works, I think. And up into here, this texture is really good. It's when we get to the top up here that it gets a bit stale and a bit too clean. Because when we've got such nice stuff down along here, which has a bit more of a rustic lilt to it, I think it's difficult to then come to this stuff over here, which is very clean. And over on this side, just really cool textures of stuff going on. And the green really works for the path here because you've not got that green conflicting with ground so much in this one. You've got stuff over here, obviously, but the green as the path doesn't really lose us in the same way that some other things, I'm thinking of 30 when I was speaking to 30, it just became a bit confusing, but this has been focused in such a way that there's no ambiguity as to what's path and what's not path. Even though this wild mice thing we've got going on here is also the grass, it doesn't come across as confusing. As for the ride itself, again, we're kind of struggling with the fact that it's a reverser coaster. I think that a lot's been done to heighten the experience, like coming along this aqueduct and like through and around here. That works for me, you know, and then it's just kind of doing like a strange helixy type element down and across here. And then of course we've got the big diagonal, which results in us going back up to the top up there. At the end of the day, tricky ride to work with. I think they've gone to much more effort to facilitate these reverser elements as well, especially when you're flicking around like in dramatic situations like here, when you're over this huge chasm, when you're going near this waterfall at the very beginning. It doesn't take all that much to make an exciting way to integrate these things. All in all, great work, guys. This is a front runner for me so far. But we don't have all the time in the world, guys, so let's move on to the next one. I wish I could spend 20 days on each of these, because there's so much to talk about. Ooh, and we're here in a deserty sort of casino. Oh, what we have here is, it feels like Scrapland. This feels like Mecca too. We love to see it. Here is we've got the diagonal coming across here. Great way to stage this. Huge clock tower in the desert, casino, roller coasters, shipping containers, scrap yard aesthetic. You'll love to see it, guys. This is from Cheddarman and Infinite Sadness. Really fun, cool aesthetic here with all these textures coming through it. It feels like a 1990s, like real-time strategy sort of vibe. Like, what was that game called? Desperados was like a point and click sort of real-time strategy thing. It's fun to sort of experience that aesthetic shining through, and it's so dissimilar ordinarily from Roller Coaster Tycoon. This is a tricky transition here. It's hard to... Are we implying that there's a roof over this stuff? If so, I'm kind of like... so? I'm struggling to care about the structure. Got a really nice sort of spiral coaster here, integrating some of the newer track pieces to get some more interesting flow coming out of that. Very, very nice. So the entrance to this ride appears to be over here, and it appears to be a very, very fast chain lift situation. Nice to see. 35 miles per hour. Who can believe it? Let's watch this guy who we've been watching from its little beginning. We take the diagonal along here, and then it's going to reverse on itself. Very nice, very nice, very nice. And head back through the big casino sign. I do like it. I think we've got an issue of staging here. It feels like I like a lot that's going on here, but I just don't like the way all the pieces are coming together. And these big walls here, they're a difficult sell at the best of times, and they're just too under-detailed as opposed to the back. I can appreciate how you might want for there to be a bit of peace and quiet in comparison to the noise of the structure that's on the outside, but what results from it is that it feels like it's in the wrong scale. It almost feels like that this is like we're like way zoomed in on a smaller, less significant piece of wall, like Honey, I've Shrunk the Kids sort of situation, and too kind of sparsely populated with your slot machines and tables and stuff. It just feels very... The grain like shifts down, despite the fact there's all this fun, exciting stuff that's going on. The floor's way too unexciting, if that makes sense. So the backdrop sort of sucks away from the drama of what you've got going on here, which is really cool. The way you've staged these rides, these supports as you come through here, really cool, fun colors and structures you've got going on here. Really big winners in that regard. But then you've got the dull as dishwater backdrop that it's up against. It doesn't come together. Got a really cool sign here as well. This support structure, really nice. Then of course the reverser coaster is just kind of boring. It gets exciting as it comes around here, but when it's going around this part, it's kind of so what. Love this big sign here as well. But this big clock tower, it's sort of blocking us from a lot of angles as well. It's the tricky thing with wanting to have a big structure. A tricky thing to contend with. I don't like the just speckling of different land types as well. It doesn't fit the grain of what we've got here. It feels way too low resolution for what you're actually wanting from it. So I'd maybe just stick to the brown down the middle. Let's just do a little bit of experimentation. We'll start with this color, but we'll use a bigger pen to come through. So we could like have this sort of thing, and then maybe in the middle we could do like a bit like that, and then you could harvest interest from the contrast more towards the edges than in the middle, which appears to be kind of the opposite of what you've gone for. I think you want consistency from a footpath like this. I get why people want to spam textures and stuff, but I feel like it doesn't work the way that people are wanting it to. It's a tricky one, isn't it? These surroundings are quite fun. Again, we've got like a big flat surface here. I think we could have done a little bit more with that. And the outside desert kind of thing is nice, but there's not much going on. Thank you very, very much to Cheddarman and Infinite Sadness for giving us this park. I'm really, really glad you did. I like it, but there are obviously some things which aren't as much to my taste. But let's not harp on it, eh? On to the next one. Next, we are looking at Sugars, and hopefully this isn't a one angle. Oh, thank goodness for that. I think straight off the bat, I can identify that this is going to be much more to my taste of what I was wanting from this type of ride. I see that Sugars is exactly one palette that they like to use. And I'm really, really glad to see these cool hacks and applications of said hacks, because it's one thing to know how to do lots of hacks, it's how you use them that's the important thing. And being able to bring out these patterns on the ground and stuff, it's a really fun effect. And we've got like a family photo going on here. You love to see it. Nice lights around here. Lights everywhere, it seems. It feels like Chuggers has a real sense of initiative for what works well for this sort of thing, like a nice just sort of realism type feel, and nice plazas which split off in a nice way. But having this come down here, oh, and this is the entrance, guys, here we go, entrance off the plaza. Chuggers doing it the way we love to see it. And they're cool. You must be this tall to ride sign, and the test seating to see if you can fit in the darn thing. Exit comes straight off back onto the plaza. Good stuff. I maybe would have had more stuff on the plaza maybe. And we've got some like obstructed sightline type dealies going on here, but all things considered, I think this is really, 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 really good. The best that I've seen in the contests that I've looked at so far from the DKMP lot of how to do the plaza-y thing. These viewing platforms along here to see this exciting element here. Just really cool, fun idea. Nestled in the gardens, just works really well. It's idyllic to look at. Let's watch this ride go, because I think this one's going to be the one to beat in terms of layout. It actually has like a well-constructed, interesting application of this ride type that's come off in a really, really, really aesthetically pleasing way, and you love to see it. So next one that comes out here, we're following along. In fact, let's rename one of these people. Lily, your new name is The Audience. And then I immediately close the window. Lily, are you gonna go or what? All right, Lily, aka The Audience. Let's follow your journey. We drop down. We go through some breaks into a reverser, which that matched up really well, guys. You've got to admit that. You have to admit it. And then we're going up the lift hill backwards. That's crazy. And we've got some back of house stuff, it appears like, going on here. You love to see it. There is, however, no access to the back of house that's going on down here. So let's watch as it goes up, up and away up here. And then we're slipping and sliding back around. And then we're just taking a tall drop. It goes a long way. And then we take a wide turn, an S-bend, and then we're going up this way. I'm so glad that it has sprites for these elements here. And then we're doing a little helix. And then we're back up to this part up here. And these marrying of these parts together, it works so well. It's really nice. Same over here. Honestly, I'm loving this. I think I might give the coaster for this one a 10. That is how much I like the application and the way it's nested and all of that stuff. This is the one to beat, guys. There's not really much about this that I don't like. I think I would have preferred some bigger major plaza ridge like that with some wider arterial paths as well, with some more significant like places that we're going. But I think I've got to be happy with what I've got here, I think. Guys, this is the one to be in my eyes. Amazing work, Chuggers. Let's just consider this plaza again. You walk up this way and it becomes a bit claustrophobic, you know what I mean? Of these trees that come along here, and you can't see what's going on because of the void and stuff as well. But like that aside, I'm just thinking of things to criticize because I am glazing you so much as well. So you head into this plaza, you can see that there's a huge coaster if you were to take the right path, and you look to your left path and there's the entrance to the right, you know. You've got some food and stuff. So maybe I'd want a bit more from these plazas. This plaza does a lot better because you've got the hypothetical looking out across the water as well to counteract the claustrophobia that we're getting from these narrow paths and going underneath the wooden structures of this coaster. I think maybe we could hunt for a bit more balance in that regard, but like I say, we're looking to reward in these situations, and this one is the one to beat right now. Really, really big fan of that. Great work, Chuggers. We're on to Funnybone 4796, of course. Nice, let's have a look at this. And we are back to the autumnal type thing, but we're autumnal with evergreen trees? I guess you do you, King. I guess I don't know how this is being done. Let's have a look at this. Bumper car mode, okay. And then has it only got one piece of track for it to be on? I'm ignorant, but I really like how you've managed to make these cars spin. I'm gonna have to bear that in mind for my own work. This coaster is called Whirlybird. And it's always a little bit of a shame when we have a coaster which is relegated to just its own little plot. It makes sense from a realism perspective, but I think it just means that we have less of an opportunity to heighten the experience by allowing it to interact with other stuff. But let's watch it from the beginning, shall we? It's got a little pre-ride element here. It comes up and across here. We reverse, and then we're heading up the lift hill backwards. Let's grab it at this one. We're going down quite a lot there, and then we're taking a turn at 30 miles per hour. We reverse at the top of here, and down we go. So we could have done with a lot more leveraging of diagonal stuff, but we have grabbed a little bit of steep track there, and then we're doing the good old-fashioned traditional switchback stuff there, and then we're going through this almost like Wild Mouse section there. And then it looks like we're heading back to the station here. I quite like this little element you've got here. But all in all, it's quite well staged and whatnot. It really doesn't manage to heighten the experience in the ways that we saw from perhaps like Chugger's contribution, or even like Boost Cops was really fun in that regard as well. It feels a bit lonely in its little plot pushed to the side. I like this staging of the macro around here. We've got lots of languages in the welcome sign and stuff. It's fun to see like a big entrance structure that's like this, and then there's just like a building just immediately blocking it. I think it would have been nice to have this, maybe even replace this here. And I don't have any problem with this really, really cool structure here being how it is, but we've got to admit, it blocks a significant sightline in this direction, doesn't it? Really like this building, and I really like this entrance building as well, especially with the Whirlybird type dealios going on over here. A nice little modest merry-go-round, cute little island, and a little supporting coaster, which doesn't necessarily do all that much. Over on this side, you'll love to see it. This one's really cute. It's fun to see like a sign like this going on over there. Fun to see you coming off the highway into here, you're parking up, and then you're heading off into here. I like how you've sort of clearly noticed that in some ways that the diagonals and whatnot do a lot to help you smuggle ideas through, but then we have like a big long straight line along here, which is almost enforced by this coaster in this right angle as well. I think there's stuff we could have done to more handily and happily facilitate a lot of the really cool ideas you've had, Funny Bone. I'm excited to see more Funny Bone, you know? I think there's a lot of potential. This building works really well. It appears to be like a hotel, doesn't it? I like it. It's not like all the way there for me, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing, and I'm seeing the vision, and it's working for me. Very interesting. Thank you, Funny Bone. I like the autumnal vibe, despite the fact that I don't think these kind of trees do turn any other colour unless they die. I think they stay green, but I'm not a scientist or a tree person, an arborist, so maybe it is unwise to listen to me. Let's hop to the next one. Obeon, this is a name I recognize, and we've got dueling ones. Is this too big? This feels like it's too big, but it's 50 by 60, which, if I'm not mistaken, completely within the rules. It feels massive, this one, doesn't it? Straight away, I'm seeing really consistent aesthetic, presented really well. These single wide paths feel less like a symptom of lack of planning and more like they're being leveraged in this situation, and leveraged really well. What on earth is going on here? So this is slanted glass panels, isn't it? Yes, it is. But that works really well to make those fences. Darn, you got caves and stuff going in here. Really amazing crunch that's just created by invisible color, isn't it? On like the grass object, the gardens, sorry. Oh, which one's this one? Didn't know there was a 3-color version. Or maybe there is on the DKMP objects. Just added another color class for it. But I mean, look at this. Really nice building here, executed really well. And it looks like the 2 rides are called Landslide and Avalanche. Very interesting. Let's watch them leave, shall we? Looks like these 2 are just leaving for our enjoyment. We've got this hacked underground view thing going on here, and we're swapping around here. And are we gonna marry back up here? Outstanding. You'll love to see it. It looks like we've got a similar kind of idea over here. And just look at how the ground color is used to leverage the layout of the track. Whoop. What more could you ask for? We've got to split our eyes going off in separate directions like SpongeBob here. And we join back up over here. And then we're back up into the station. That works remarkably well. Oh, that's awesome. I love that. That's a really cool layout. Works really well. There's no part of it which goes very high up off the ground as well, so it gets that. It helps make it feel very big because there's nothing that's like super duper tall apart from these buildings that we've got over here. That really works for me. It's just perfectly executed. This reminds me of that Lego theme, Ice Planet. I think we could have done a bit more with the plazaing of this here. It feels almost like a middle finger to the idea of plazaing. We don't need this same level of fanfare that we have here, obviously. So we've got like a restaurant, and then we head down under here to the other like ride possibility. But this just comes through a little bit of nothing, if that makes sense. But I think we definitely could have done more there. Oof, all I'm saying is there's going to be a real catty fight to the death between Hobion and Chuggers for the ruler of my heart here. It's a difficult one because this feels really dramatic and dynamic, doesn't it? And I really like this foliage is perfect. This is perfect foliage. Like, it's a bit of a shame how flat some of these surfaces feel because of the degree of grain or the degree of like detail per tile that we get from these snowy trees on top of these like grass objects, it really sort of cranks up the degree of detail that's perceived in these areas. And then once we get to the surfaces, they feel very blank in comparison, which I feel like you've noticed because you've added in these like retaining wall elements here. It's a tricky one, isn't it? And I really like the more flat expanses of white that you've got here. It feels very, very much like, you know, virgin snow that you get after a snowstorm. Really, really cool. Wow. All I can say is wow to this one. That really works. Amazing work, Hobion. Okay, we are back. It is the next day. I ran out of steam yesterday and I thought, we've got to be fair to these parks. I can't be doing them when I'm that tired. But I'm very excited to jump back into these because we've got Jaren's park to look at here. Why is there no park in the background? Is this gonna... okay. Well, touche. Okie dokie, that's more like it. Let's have a look at Jaren. And already, this is fun. Is this an SV4 file? I don't think it can be an SV4 file. I don't think that's allowed in the rules, but this is overwhelmingly Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 coded. This is a smuggled lurker piece. This is Lurker's dummy account. Something that I want people to bear in mind when we're doing stuff like splash boats is you've got to have a nice long splash area. Send them around a corner like that. The kind of trains that these splashy folks have, you will just be slammed into your next door neighbor. You will all have broken collarbones, and if that's what you want, then more power to you. But look at how miniature this thing feels. The main thing we're going to be looking at here is our lovely, lovely reverser roller coaster. When I say I've literally just got out of bed, I mean it. This one feels like one where we've just like got a cursory inclusion of a reverser roller coaster, which I guess is no bad thing. It's up to you how you want to apply yourself in this project. I think this one has like a really clear aesthetic, this Rollercoaster Tycoon 1 aesthetic that it really leans into, and I like that. It feels like it's got a lot of fun. For overall like compositional features, I don't really think it's got all that many. I like this little thing here and these structures along here, this car ride which comes out and over and across, I quite like. But for everything else, there's not really a huge amount to comment on other than what I've touched upon. It's a really fun little thing, but in terms of like stuff to reward, I don't know that there's a huge amount that we can really get into here. It just feels like a nice, fun little thing that Jaren has made for us. I don't resent that, but I just can't super reward it, is all. It's not a horrifically thrilling reverser coaster either. We've got one here, then one hidden under here, so we're all good on the rules. But this is supporting ride coded. I think we can all agree on that. And as for the other roller coasters, they're all, nothing really leaps out to grab our attention in terms of being like a main ride that's supposed to focus us up. You could argue that maybe this one, Destruction, feels like a good place, but we like turn it around and it's like obscured from this angle. You've got this loop here which is kind of visible from this angle, but it's sort of garbled with the density and layering that we have here. So maybe something that I do is pull some of this stuff away and bring some more focus to this loop here. Would have done a lot to help bring a bit of aesthetic clarity to what we've got going on here. And on that same note, I'd maybe pull some of this stuff away to really just let this area breathe a bit more. Even just bring in a simple path along here, just along like that, would have done a world of good to bring this more to both our eye and the guest eye. We did have this one along here and this one along here, but we didn't really feel a connection to it because it was so hidden behind everything. So these are the kind of things that are going to connect us to the park, and you've done that quite well in other areas. But the single tile path is a tricky one because it sort of pushes you into these like plaza-y type beats, but I don't feel like you've leaned into them to help orient the guest and the viewer to what we should be focusing on. They're just sort of right-angling around everywhere and just sort of going where paths go without much leveraging to help us understand what we should be looking at. And as a consequence, it feels like a really fun Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 thing, but it's lacking that depth that we might really want from a higher scoring park. But that being said, I do enjoy this. You know, I like it. I like Roller Coaster Tycoon. So seeing some like old school Roller Coaster Tycoon like this, it feels good. You know, so great work, Jaron. I'm really glad that you contributed to this contest. Really appreciate that. It's everybody who keeps these contests alive, not just the ones that I like the most. So I'm really, really thankful that you've showed us this today. Let's move on to the next one. And we're looking at Lurker, our good friend Lurker, and we could have put money on Lurker doing an amazing reverser coaster, because Lurker really has just puts a lot of time into these less appreciated rides and these smaller type rides. And this one comes through with a really, really very nice vibe. These jaggedy rocks around here. I will say that it feels a bit unfocused when we're looking at the macro here, and that's not just from like, oh, if you strip everything away, like highlight path issues. If we go like this and we just see the paths, sadly this only shows the real paths, so the paths that guests can literally go on, like the ones from this menu. So this isn't necessarily the most useful thing in every single park ever, but in this instance, when we're looking at Lurker Park like this, we can whip out this feature to sort of see the overall macro of what's going on here. So from this kind of macro, obviously it's a little bit unfocused, but when we bring everything back online, you can see that just like the colors and the textures, we're sort of missing a little bit of accent color to like help it pop. Even like the planters are quite neutral, so it could have really used like a pop of like, let's just do like a crazy experiment right now. We take this color, we replace it with a purple. You see how that has sprung to life like that. It doesn't have to be like a crazy color like that. Even if you bring in maybe even just a red like that, it helps it pop against the quite neutral colors you've got in the background. And ordinarily that's something that Lurker's really good at, so maybe just trying for a different aesthetic this time, who knows. Let's watch one of these rides. We're beginning over here. I think this is an underappreciated thing as well, like making it clear like where your like ride entrance is and that sort of thing is an important thing, and we're not getting that clarity on this one. But here we go, we're swooping down and around here. I think this use of texture like is really nice though. It's just finding that balance, isn't it? I don't think the balance is quite there. And I believe in these little houses here we get the switch arounds, the old switcheroos, and we've got a patent pending Lurker mini golf situation going on there. But it is quite buried, you can only really see it when we look here, you know? We head up the lift hill, then we're swinging around the golfy area, the mini golf. Quite a relaxing second half. I think when you're building rides like this, I think that having your more intense section second gives you a sense of building to a climax that I think is worthwhile. And then we flip it back around. So yeah, this is a funny one. There's ways in which it really like, this is gorgeous just along here. It's just lacking a bit of overall focus. Like, I'm loving this little lake over here, and same with like this plaza over here. This plaza works really well. This is some really good plaza-age, and we are welcomed up these stairs to see our Persimmon Spin sign in the beginning of our queue here. This is ideal, and we can see the ride going up and over there. I think I'd maybe, if you're coming from this direction, you're a bit more exposed to the coaster, but over this way, I think we maybe could have had a bit more Persimmon Spin to hype you for the ride a little bit. Who knows? That's not really like a mark down, it's just like an area that could have helped it be marked up a little bit more. Man, I say it all the time, I'm a big Lurker fan. I love Lurker's stuff. It's really cool to see the other golf stuff going on over here. Like a more considered thing over here. And just like this line along here, isn't that just gorgeous? That's just so nice. I think if you managed to join these last loops together, Lurker, it, like, you're easily getting some of the best aesthetics in the game. So maybe that's something that's just worth considering investing a little time in, like I have, to just really focusing on that stuff, because I've made no secret of my Lurker fandom over the years. In terms of the actual ride, I like it, and I think it's staged really well. Like, you've leveraged the landscape, the paths, all of this stuff really well to heighten it. But other than that, it's just kind of just a bit nothing when compared to some of the other ones we've seen. I'm glad that we have, when you're doing a contest like this, you can contrast the entries against each other, which I think is really helpful, because sometimes if you're just looking at something that isn't in a contest and you're trying to find a way to illustrate a point and you just drag up like a random park from the past, and usually it's like a renowned park that's like, it kind of comes across like an unfair comparison. But when you're in a contest, it's very, very easy to just say, have a look at Hobians, have a look at Chuggers, and see how you can make these things more of a center point, make them really exciting. And that's really helpful from just like an illustration point of view. I like this one. I do like it. I like a little bit of Lurker every now and then. But like I say, it just needs that, to get really, really up there, you've got to just complete the circle a bit more by getting a bit more of a macro perspective in there. Really, there's some moments where it just really, really shines through. Like, this is just such a screenshot here. Like, grab this one for a screenshot. Grab this area here for a screenshot. Like, even looking through into this part, screenshot, you know. And I think something that really springs to life from like an illustration of a point perspective is that because you have these golf greens around here, it's forced you to be have a bit more like penmanship when it comes to the foliage, because you've got to have these greens here, and it's made you really, really leverage the foliage and all of the other features to facilitate an interesting view of, you know, a golfing scene. And this can be like a little bit of a sink or swim moment. Like, this could have turned out really boring, but you've made them dynamic. There's, you know, height changes and bits of drama. I really rate it, and I like the jagged rocks. They're hard to pull off, but you've done a really good job here. I think one of the main things with jagged rocks is don't make them too extreme. I think this is about as extreme as you want to go. And you've nested them really well with foliage and the surroundings for really idyllic scenes. I'm such a fan of this part here. This absolutely rocks. Maybe people are looking at this and thinking, what? Why is he so about this? But this is the Lurker effect, man. This is a distinct aesthetic that just works really well. I can imagine being here for some reason. It just works for me. It just pops off. Big fan. Thank you, Lurker. Sorry I couldn't score you higher, but I've scored you highly where I can score you highly. And that's really all I can do for you. Let's move on to the next one. Mouse. Big thank you to Mouse for their lovely comments that they leave on the videos, and also for hanging out with me a little bit the other day on the New Element voice channel, keeping me company whilst I was making my advent calendar park, which no doubt I will be discussing a little bit with you guys in another video. I've been looking forward to this one because Mouse's first entry was really cool last time, and already we're getting into hacks with this. Are you kidding me? Great work, dude. First thing that I want to point out here is something that I feel like has been absorbed by Mouse that other people need to absorb. We've clumped our autumnal colours together here, so it feels less scattershot. We zoom out, and instead of it just being like a beep beep boop boop beep boop, just random trees, like almost like you've grabbed the spray paint can from old school Microsoft Paint and just gone psh. Instead, we've got more considered groupings of colours and like transitions into these colours. So great work there, Mouse. Maybe we should be referring people to this one when we're looking at how to clump our autumnal colours. And you've done a good job of clumping the heights together to like, this feels really clumpy, and that's what we want from our foliage. That's how foliage reacts normally. I think we've done a slightly less good job when we are sort of coming through here and we're spamming them through. I think we need to continue this clumpage as we're coming through here. So we get a lot more clarity when we get rid of these, and also the ones that are in here. I think you've got to pick your moments when it comes to putting foliage inside of your like ride situations, and maybe something we could do here is like grabbing a few of these to maybe create like a diagonal in this space and sort of clumping them together like that. And I'll get rid of some of these other ones around here. Maybe we could do another one in this space over here. So we don't just spam them anywhere, but you want to have some like included in there, right? You don't want it to be just completely treeless inside this space. So coming through like this, and then you can do your bush spam underneath. Obviously we're going quick and dirty on this one. And this can give you your foliage on the inside, but we're following that same idea that you're doing over here. And then there's like a space here we can drop a few in. So we create more considered chunks inside here, and we can do the same thing in this area here. So we're finding these little moments to have the clumps rather than just having just random ones speckled through. That's when it becomes weaker, like along here. This is this kind of scatter shot that we don't want. Let's load back in the original. We've got a nice river running through here. It's just like an underwater. Oh, it's backwards. I see. Sometimes I'm not so smart, guys, and that's the thing that you've got to remember. I can see here we're already starting to get really good plaza-y stuff going on here to help situate us. I think this one's probably the best plaza in this map. It's a little bit tricky when we're using single wide paths, because it can sometimes feel like we're like outlining stuff a little bit. It's a tricky one. I don't know what I would have done differently here, but I like this plaza. I like this hacked wheel that we've got here, and it's really cool to see this terrace up towards this thing. This makes a really clear macro focal point for what we're looking at here. Everything's sort of pointing in the same direction, which is really nice. So yes, we don't want too much of just random tree placement in here. These are where the strengths are. I think we just need to be a bit more discerning with where we're placing our bushes as well. When it just becomes, they need to hang out together. We need to let the gravity of the situation bring the bushes more towards them and just not have them just be hanging out on their own so much. Good to see the spooky fences in action. Let's have a look at the roller coaster, shall we? So we drop out of here, we go up this lift hill, and here we go. Got a couple of hills. We're turning around, dropping down and heading across the river. I think I would have liked a bit more of the drama that comes from crossing over the river. We need to find other things that work to our favor like that. Then we are around here, and we're heading up into A. Now, I couldn't tell from the off that this was like a dueling lift hill here, and this is timed up really well. I don't know whether that was something you were considering when you were building this, but it seems to be matching up pretty darn well, which I really like. Look at that. But we are missing more of those compositional elements. Like, this is really cool, but we've hidden it inside a forest of both randomly placed trees and coaster track. You know, it would have been really good to take this as a feature, go, this is a big success, what we have here. The dueling lift hills as they come up work really well. How do we position these in such a way as to get the most out of them from like a peep perspective as well? So something that we can consider here is, you know, bringing the path to the right. You know, we can just come in like this and go, oh wow, now we can see what's going on here. And then we just have to weave it in here. And also when you bring the peeps in like this, it just adds a lot more drama. When we have just an isolated ride like this, there's a lot of rides. There are a lot of rides that are like this in real life. They have a plot. It all takes place in Mysteryland where the peeps can't see. It makes sense from a realism perspective, right? But it isn't the most dramatic way you can do it. We are leaving money on the table when we decide to go for it like that. This station building is really good. I like this feeling as you go across here. Just really, really simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think this part's a little bit awkward here, but I don't hate it. It's not like, I'm not looking at it and thinking, oh, that's deeply ugly. It's just a little bit nonsensical, but that's all right. But really cool. I like how this frames up along here, and then you find yourself on the other side. I also think, I can't mark this down. It's not wrong, it's not bad. We can have more drama when it comes to this entrance. We can make it a more significant beginning to the queue. I think sometimes it really does pay to separate the station and the queue a little bit, and sending the queue like maybe into the mess of the track as well can really help hype the guests. It gives them something to look at. It gives them something for us to look at as well. Ways, little wrinkles you can add into it to add that extra bit of drama. It's all about leveraging as much as we can to get the most out of it, especially in like a competition setting as well. In terms of the actual layout, of the ride, it has moments that I really enjoy, like this dueling moment here just really, really works. And where it comes out over the water, you can tell that this is drama when we come across here. For the other stuff, it feels like we're just going up and down and left and right. I think that's a little bit of an issue of context, because it's on its own little plot. It's hard to contextualize the ride, and also it's not doing some of the things that we really want from wooden roller coasters specifically, which is returning back along the same footprint to like save money on the amount of structure that you need to have. Is like a big trope, and it's one of the things that lends to the aesthetic of wooden coasters, where they really try and go back along the same route. If you think of an out and back roller coaster, they go out and they come back along that same little footpath. Not only does that save space from a practical perspective, but it means you don't have to lay as many footers, you don't have to use as much wood, because those structures will support each other. So maybe that's something that we want to keep in mind when we're making wooden roller coasters in specific, not necessarily wooden reverser coasters. We don't have a huge amount of examples for these, so I really like the way that people have just taken their own spin on it, if you'll pardon their own flip on it, if you'll pardon the pun. But yes, in time you will gradually get a feel for what makes a good coaster aesthetically. I think it is much harder to do a kind of roller coaster which has its own plot, because it does preclude it from the drama of interaction with other rides, interaction with the path, interaction with buildings, stuff like that. So maybe to begin with, I'd say bring the peeps into the footprint of the ride, bring other rides into the footprint of the ride, help them to feed each other's possible drama. I use the word drama a lot. I think that's clear to a lot of people, but for people who are a bit confused why I'm using drama for roller coasters, it's those moments of excitement, for moments of complication. We go across the river, suddenly we're worried about, oh, we're going to fall in the river. It's that sort of stuff. If you're coming through with like bridges and stuff coming over the top, suddenly we're worried about, oh, is my head going to get chopped off by this bridge? It's all stuff like that. Those are the really surface level versions of drama, and then you can have more complex drama as you get more and more sophisticated as you go along. I guess another way to put it is like visual interest is like another way of putting drama in that context. So yeah, really cool. I'm big improvement from your last one. I would like to have seen a few more buildings to really like stretch your like architecture muscle, because this building you've done here is really cool. I like the color choices that you've gone with as well. I'd maybe keep with stuff like this. I think there's part of us that really wants to add interest. It's same with paths as well. When people like, let's say we've got this path here, sometimes people they might just lose confidence in their path. They'll see like a big path like this and they'll lose confidence in their ability to communicate a nice image, and they'll come through and they'll go, well, maybe if I'd like do something like this, which isn't necessarily bad, you know, this isn't awful, but they'll go like this because like, oh no, and now that's more interesting. No, now that's more unfocused and messy. It's a tricky line to walk because in a lot of situations you want to be simplifying, and then in other situations you want to be adding that extra level of detail, you want to be adding wrinkles in. But this is one of the situations where you want to be simplifying. I don't think that this one up here should be a different color. But I don't really resent having the aqua mixed with the baby blue. I think having something like that can work really well, and I think that kind of works well. Because it's repetitive enough to legitimize it, as the famous Adam Neely said, and I will repeat the fact that he is a New Element member. Whether he's been on the site in the last 20 years, we just don't know. But he has acknowledged his New Element account. Oh, it's hard to rate all of these. Let's move on to the next one. Pentrait. This is a name I've never heard in my life, but I like it already. This one is very small, very distinct aesthetic, leaning very hard into the yellow. Maybe a bit too much, who knows? This one is a bit of a barrage of information. Let's have a look-see what's going on here, see if we can learn something from this. A lot of it's underground. Do we have a working dual station? That is the question on everyone's lips right now. Oh, that's just a repair station. I see. I accept you. So let's discuss the good things first, shall we? It's only polite. I really like the distinct aesthetic. There is no sort of aesthetic confusion here, apart from maybe this ride station here, which feels like you had the idea and didn't really mind whether it worked with the aesthetic or not. But I really like this feature here. We've got the, what do they call these? You've got the big loopy thingy and the Ferris wheel inside it. This obviously would never fly in real life, but not everything has to be realistic. It's a really fun idea, executed in a really fun way, and I like how you've used these scenery pieces to help forge that aesthetic. There's a very clear leading line down here. I think we maybe could have done without these statues in here. I don't think they help us at all. I think this should have just been a simple through line path through here. It seems like the queue is just along here, so we're missing out any drama that we could have leveraged from our queue, which we've discussed in a few of the other ones. We really want to be using our queue to help define something extra. You know, when we neglect the queue, we're just leaving money on the table, like I've mentioned in a few of the other applicants in this contest. But we start by going down here through this little adventure section. Where do we go next? I believe we appear... oh, I simply don't know. So then we are going through here in a way that we just can't really see, which is a shame. We can see it kind of here, and then we come in around there, which we can't see, and then we're going through this reverse section. So this already, we're noticing a huge issue of readability, which isn't necessarily a bad thing if you want it to be a thing where you're hunting around, oh, where's it going, where's it going? But when we're trying to cultivate points in the contest, we want to maybe help the viewer a little bit more to understand what on earth is going on. And then we've got a little slalom-esque section here, which then comes up and around here, around this pirate ship. I'm not going to question that. And then we're climbing back up and around. I really don't like, the more I think about it, the more I don't like this. And I'm just going to delete it and see where it leaves us aesthetically. I think that leaves us in what we call in the business a better position. Sometimes less is more, and I feel like this is one of those situations. You could bring a structure out in front here, that could work really well, but the glass is like a big contrast to the Aztec, and I'm not sure that it really works that well. Let's bring back the old one. So on the one hand, I like the distinct aesthetic with like the Aztec thing that's going on here, but the overall macro it leaves a lot to be desired. We're not really going anywhere with it. We've not done anything with our queue. We've got sort of a pointless station structure here, and this part in the front, it's really ugly. But I see a lot of potential because you see these little show areas and you're like, oh, that looks really fun, you know? But on the other hand, you're sort of hiding a lot from it. And I like this little area over here as well. It's almost like you've really, really got it in these situations. And then we come to this situation down here, and I like how we're looking down on it. I think that's the right call for that sort of situation. But we've not really used it beyond that to get even more drama. It's just like a middling amount of drama. So I'm really excited to see more from you, Pentray. It's got those shining moments. If we can lean more into this feeling and making really clear adventure rides as opposed to confusing experiences where I'm like flicking the camera around trying to find what on earth is going on. I think making this on a bigger map, same amount of content, so no more work, but on a bigger map where you can do a bit more with your paths, do a bit more with your guest experience, do a bit more with making things more clear, it would have done you a world of favors, because I'm really liking a lot of the stuff that's here, but it's sort of come through a little bit garbled for me. So I'm excited to see more from you, Pentray. Thank you so much for showing us your work today. Let's move on to the next one. Pet Narwhal. I believe we saw some Pet Narwhal last time. And we've got another dueling one. This is fun to see. So they separate out pretty early on. When do they interact again? I'm thinking. So they both go down and underneath and into this part up here. So this is the sort of thing that we're thinking about with the dueling. I really like when they go across each other like that, and we're coming across each other here as well. But that's sort of hidden inside. I think that's a bit of a shame. I think we want to be letting the audience experience those things firsthand, as opposed to going in and hunting for them. Where does this go? Oh, it goes around there. And then we have another dueling element here. Very, very nice. We flip around and another steep drop down into here. So cool. We've got unique features of both of the rides. It's almost like that claustrophobia, agoraphobia from Diamond Heights sort of feeling that's going on here, where they have two distinct experiences. Looking at the architecture, I feel like this one comes through as a very confused building, I think, especially when we bring it to this angle and it sort of blends into this one a little bit, which doesn't necessarily do it any favors. Maybe just a little bit of layer separation could have helped us a little bit there, and how we'd do that is we'd maybe just bring some trees through in the middle and just be like la 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 la, and that helps them to feel more distinct in the layering of the game. That's more of like a problem with the aesthetic of Roller Coaster Tycoon, because having it be isometric in that regard and not having any sense of depth, it can make things blend together, but that's something that we have to live with. We're using this game, we have to play by the unfair rules of this game. It's a nitpick, so take this with a grain of salt. You don't want to start with your game paused. You want it to be going when you open it up. That's one of those things that is like at the very end of the day, if I was coming up against, I've got to pick between this park and another park, and I just can't choose between them. It's going to be the things like starting with the game running is going to help one of those things. Starting with the game paused is going to hurt your scoring in that regard. It's in those little 1% situations where we simply can't choose between two very equal experiences. We have to resort to looking at those kind of things, and it's a very easy thing to get right, you know, so it's something that's worth considering. These tiny things, and things like naming your rides go a long way to that as well. Looks like we've got some really good ride naming in here, so if your competition was failing to do that, you would get the one up on them there. So it's all these little things combined together at the end of the day. I really like this hill element. I think we could have brought it more to the peeps, which is a thing that I'm bringing up a lot. When you've got something really cool like this, why hide it from your guys, right? Bring a path maybe like around here, you know, help sculpt the environment. You've done that well with your foliage and your landscaping to sculpt this experience for the rider. It seems like you've got like a good grasp of the buildings. I think just like a bit more practice is going to be helping, because this one here, and especially this one here, they're not leveraged in a good way. I feel like this, I would have gone for a bit more of a tower on this end, a tower on that end, and then like a connecting building that's a bit more like this in between them. And then for this one, I don't know what I would have done. It's just not a interesting way to do this building, I'm afraid. And we're pushed up against the map edge, which has probably affected your decision making with that as well. Got a cool bridge along here. I can't really say I understand the amount of fanfare it gets, but I don't resent it. I think it looks really nice. Same with this part down here. This is obviously like a reflection of this top part up here, and drawing those aesthetic elements to mirror one another works really well. These are the things that you've got to be leveraging in this game. So on this side, it's an S-bend and a smaller turn to get to here, and on this side, it's just like a larger turn. And just having those little aesthetic differences, we've made symmetry and we've broken the symmetry. It works well. Got a nice waterfall up here. Got a nice swinger ride here with this craggy mountainous part over here. And we're sent up in random directions to reach these rides that are, for some reason, up on this hill. I think that sort of lacks a bit of macro clarity, and I'd say in general we're lacking a bit of macro clarity. Like, this is a funny one here. Like, why is there two distinct steps up and then they're so close to each other here, but we don't connect them? I think that's one of those situations where you've found yourself in, well, but I can't do that because this ride's got to come out here and we've got to have the clearances here. You've got to change your stuff then. It's got to change. Because having these two here, where I could just climb across this and land in that part there, that's a bit of a snafu. It just comes across as clumsy, like you've not gone all the way with it. And in terms of the macro as well, having this, you have to come up and then go to the entrance of this church here. It's just a no-no. You want to be leading, you want to be giving your leading lines like towards a huge structure like this, because otherwise it doesn't really do anything, right? You can go in through the bottom there, but this little bit under here, this bit does look cool. Like this view here, it would be fun to walk down here and see these things going over the top. It's not an argument of whether or not this is cool to look at. We've left money on the table, guys. We're always leaving money on the table. So I'd maybe draw this entire aesthetic. I'd get rid of this bridge and I'd go for this texture across this whole plaza. At least then you aren't diverting the viewer's attention in a really weird, unnecessary way. And we want a bit more plaza-age, guys. It always comes back to plaza-age. We need more plaza-age. This is a no-no, I'd say, as well. Just the way that you've obscured this area, which is supposed to be like the entrance to the park. But also we've got these like huge steps coming up here, but you've closed off this edge. So we're coming around this corner and then there's all these steps that go up. It's just funny, isn't it? Because we need to, how do we get in? Are we coming in from this direction? And then we're coming down here and we're like craning our neck to look up here as opposed to coming from this direction to see this stuff. It's just a bit garbled. And maybe this is like a map size thing as well. And this is why I think we should maybe just like, there's an idea that we're always trying to get with a lot of these parks, which is like, it's a park, it has a park entrance, and it's so tiny, it is unfeasibly tiny for the things that are inside of it, but we do have the entrance to our park on the map edge. It is a complete park. I think maybe let's just leave that idea from now on. We don't need to. It's making us add in stuff like entrance buildings that we don't need. We don't need them. Let the audience understand it as a segment of a bigger park, in the same way that I'm not going like, well, where's the car park? You've not included a car park. Is it over here? Is it over here? No, I don't care about the car park. I don't care about the public transit. I'm not looking for like, well, where's the water treatment facility. You know, it doesn't matter. And it's the same with the entrance of your park as well. Stop including it. You've made a mess of this here. You could just get rid of this entire building here. Have that be a more clear plaza. Keep all of your really cool ride exactly the same. And you're not having to completely hide it behind all of these angles. And what is this here as well? I'm getting harsh on this one because I do like a lot of the decisions that you've made, but then you go and scupper yourself. Like, it's just... And if somebody comes at me and says, oh, I'll put the tower there so that you didn't have to look at that, I'm gonna slap someone. So yes, I think we need to... One of the skills that we've really got to like work on, I think this applies to a lot of the parks that we're looking at today, is we can't look at the parameters of the contest and blame the parameters of the contest for something which didn't pan out. It's something that in reflection you can do and say, I should have done it differently because the parameters of the contest sort of made it so that I couldn't this, that, and the other. But that's something that you look at and reflect on and say, I'm not going to let that happen again. Having the map size be very small, maybe what we do is we pick out not an idea of a park, we pick out a more significant single idea. If this was a bit more focused around your really cool dueling, these mirrored image things that you've got going on down here, this is all, you know, top drawer stuff. If we'd leaned more into this aesthetic and left we don't need to have the wave swinger, we don't need to have the top spin, I think I would have kept this. I think this is one of the winner moments here with this. You know, it's up on the hill, you walk up to it. I think that works well. This one doesn't really work well. I like this in its corner, but I think I would have brought this way more into, you know, the sightline that goes on here is like a powerful sightline. And we should leverage this kind of sightline more with our coasters and stuff like that. It's like frustrating to see this here in such a position where it's like got this really dominant position at the end of this sight line, and we don't get that same treatment for the coaster. It's just sort of flying around the place, and we're not staging our guests in such a way as to appreciate them in the same way the guest is obliged to appreciate this down here. This isn't an inevitability, right? This is something we can use. It's not an accident that this takes up a focal point. It's not like, oh, if only there was something we could do about that. You build the park. So bringing in more moments of guest reflection, which in our language we're talking plaza, is what we've got to be doing here. And using those, the path is the way that the peep experiences the world. So we should be using our path in the same way that we use the roller coasters. You've clearly thought a lot about the guest experience when building the roller coaster, right? You've wanted thrilling things. You wanted these to come together and be like, oh, we're going to crash. But no, now we're going alongside each other and we're flipping around at the same time. And then together we're going down under here. We're sort of dueling each other. Then we're back up into the station. That is something that you've either consciously or subconsciously considered when building this. And that's why it's such a strong moment. So all in all, I appreciate this one, which I think is why I sort of went a bit insane when looking at it, because I see a lot of the pitfalls that I see in a lot of these other contest entries where we're almost getting there. We're almost getting something that's really, really, really awesome. And we sort of trip at some of those more simple hurdles. So bringing those processes to the forefront of your mind, not letting them just be operating on instinct, bring them to the front, consider them heavily, and this will go from being something that's really, really cool and sort of fails to reach the heights that it could to something that's like really, really amazing. Could be, you know, the contest winner, you know, but it comes through garbled. The ride making decisions and the park making decisions need to really be really harmonious to get the really high scores that I'm thinking for some of the other ones that I've previously mentioned. So great work, Pet Narwhal. I really, really appreciate you sharing your work with us, getting an entry in. Moments of genius shining through. Now we're looking at Slord. Hello, Slord. I like your name. Oh, really cool to see like the pixel art skull here. I like that. We've got another one with a splash section. Very interesting. So this one is a very simple one, it seems like. It slaloms up there and then it comes down along the map edge. I'd really avoid going up against your map edge here, because when you put something up against the map edge, you've lost a whole edge that you can use to your advantage. And sometimes that's fine. If you're doing like a cutaway thing, like if we'd done a bit more with this and like had it be, oh, we're like disappearing underground and there's leaves and stuff everywhere, suddenly it becomes a moment that we're being let into. But for the most part, we want to avoid it because, simply put, it's like you've literally built yourself into a corner. And that's not what we want to see for the most part. If you planted this way more in the middle, suddenly you can make this moment way more dramatic because you can put stuff on the other side as well. It's as simple as that. Really cool to see the pirate theme. I think, Slord, just take a look at some of the other reviews that I've done in the rest of this video and take the stuff from there. I don't really want to go in on something which feels like a beginner level entry and be like overly critical. I don't want to be overly critical. I want you to build more. I want you to improve and be able to heighten these really cool ideas you've had, like this huge skull. It works, man. I saw it and I got a big smile on my face. I think it looks really cool. And this splash section here, I like it. But other than that, I think it's lacking a level of sophistication that I might want to see. But that sort of stuff, it comes with time. You know, we're thinking, how do we make the guest experience really cool? How do we bring the guests to those dramatic moments? Like, just think if we'd brought the path over here to let the peeps get excited about this moment, that could have really heightened it, couldn't it? But all in all, I'm really glad that you've put an entry in. I appreciate it. So all in all, I'm really glad that you entered. I'm glad that you're getting involved in the contest. I think that you're definitely going to be someone who's going to improve really quickly as well. You just got to follow the tips that I've been talking about in this video. Don't be so spammy with the trees. You can clump them together a little bit more. I have a tutorial for this. I think it's episode 7 or 8 of my Fundamental Forest series. Will give you a really good way to be a bit more, to get more out of your foliage. You know what I mean? Instead of it just being trees that are like spammed in there, you can make them work for you, become a really powerful tool to get a strong vision across. Same way that you'd want to from your coasters, you know? Very, very nice. Lovely to see your work. Thank you so much for submitting, Slord. And I hope to see you in many, many more to come. I'm excited to follow you on your journey. Here we go. Now we're looking at ta-da. Ooh, and we've got a micro one this time. Not a lot to look at. We've got zombies. Oh my goodness. And this one's called Thriller. We're still on that Halloween aesthetic. So I think the main thing that we're going to be looking at here is the ride. There's not really anything to speak of. Oh, overtime. I do like that. So there's a way that you can get rid of certain angles of signs. So ordinarily we'd look at this sign and we'd see the same thing from this angle, but there is a way, if you go into Tile Inspector and delete certain parts, you can have different things on the same area of sign. Very, very cool. So yes, in terms of scenery, we've not really got much to discuss here. This is one of those where I can like pretty much immediately put a score in for that. There's not really much to discuss, is there? I can't give it a super high score. But let's look at the ride. The ride might be a different story, but it is hard to detect what's going on because it is very layered. I really like the reverser spikes that you've got, like this one especially on the right over here works really, really well. I'm struggling to see what's going on, so that's obviously an issue. Yes, I really like this spike. This spike works really well. The layering of the tracks with it, I am liking. But apart from that, I don't really have much to say. I can't really see what you've done here, Tada, which is a bit of a shame. But this is all part of the game, isn't it? Being able to get your ideas across really succinctly in a small area is a challenging thing. And I think when it works really well, it works really well. But it is easy to fall into these pitfalls of we've got too much stuff layered on itself and there's not much room to do anything. It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. But thank you for submitting, Tada. But thank you very much for submitting, Tada. I really like the zombie thing and the thriller type deal we've got going on, and I like the overtime. Time over, or is it overtime or time over? Who knows? Over, time, over, time, over, time. If you press shift and enter, you can go in the other direction, and it really genuinely confuses me because I'm so used to doing the clockwise thing. But when I go the other direction, I'm like, what am I looking at? I'm looking at a different park when I go in the opposite direction. But yes, cool stuff to that. Really appreciate you putting an entry in. Let's move on to the next one. Tall JK26. Let's zoom out and see what we've got going on here. Oh, awesome. Is this a kind of skull? Is this an original skull, or is this this kind of skull that someone's done before? I like it either way, but seeing this ribcage here, nice. You love to see that. We've got another Halloween-y aesthetic going on here. We've got a big red wall to a big red castle. Very nice, interesting stuff. Wow, I'm really glad that it took such a huge swing with this one. Tall JK. Let's have a look, find what our ride is doing. It looks like we are beginning up here, but where is the entrance to our ride? It appears that the entrance is this part here. Yes, we can see them heading in that direction. Let's follow this one on its way up. I guess nothing significant happens on this part. Let's jump to this one. Oof, we've got a bit of a map edge issue there where I can't get closer with my camera on that angle. So we do a couple of bops. Same on this side. That's rather strange, isn't it? And then we go invisible there for some reason. Oh, that's going super fast. Wow. Then we're coming down this hill, sort of supported by this path alongside it. And then we go across this swing ride and up into another chain lift. I'm not sure about this small angle of lift hill change here. We do the rickety style down here. What's going on? We're just heading back to the station. Very, very interesting. So when we've got a huge body of water here, it's a bit difficult for you to persuade me that it turns into this kind of tiny waterfall here. I think obviously there's room for improvement here. I think maybe even if we, wow, you don't have the regular grey rock, but if we make this a bit more like that, a bit more of a rocky texture, might work a bit more. Like it's a really tough bit of rock that it just can't cut a wider channel into. I think that could have worked. But I like the decision that you made here. So this is like a presentation thing. It was good to present your idea. You zoomed in here and then you go, oh, well, what's going on? And then you zoom out a bit and then you go, oh, there's this huge skeleton here. That works really well. However, we didn't really leverage the skeleton as part of the ride. And I feel like that is what we call in the biz a missed opportunity. In terms of the ride, it's not much of anything really. I really like this section here, but then it just sort of goes down and wraps around there. Then we've got this section down here, which I guess exists. It's got good drama with like going through the pillars of the castle. I feel like that works really well. But if we take everything away, it doesn't necessarily have a huge amount of interest in it. I like these walls, but I'm not sure what we're communicating with them other than the fact, obviously, that it's got walls and walls exist. There's also like the idea that like we've got these huge walls, which would have been hugely complex to construct and cost huge amounts of money, and then we've just got huge gaps in them. It kind of doesn't matter that there's rivers there. An invading army would just use the river, right? They'd get boats like these guys are. It's just a funny thing you see sometimes, isn't it? It's not necessarily a huge issue. In terms of the castle, I really like the big swing that you've taken with it, and I really like the aesthetic of coming across these bridges. Really, really cool idea. We've got some lonely sort of outbuildings around there. I think this area looks a bit more neglected because this is like neon mushroom land, and I really like how you've used a mushroom aesthetic here with this custom ride. I think that's really cute, but it's kind of disjointed with all of these ideas. I like these. I like all the hacks that you've done. I think they work really well. But in terms of the ride, I can kind of take it or leave it. I'm not really very excited by it in the ways that I've been excited about some of the other ones. I think we can say the same thing about the mushrooms as we do about all foliage, that it does profit us to clump them together a bit more, because it kind of just looks a bit scattershot. It doesn't help us focus in on anything. What we've got from like our, if we look from the a million mile view that we've got here, these walls castle aesthetic works really well. You can see this skull obviously from really far away. That's awesome. I think I would have brought these ideas more together to help them lean on each other, as opposed to having some that are down here and then some that are up here. And you know, we've not got much in the way of plazaing. We've just got stuff that you just wind up at if you go along paths. So I won't harp much more on that at the end of the day. I'll just like make a little argument here for like paths. We've got like a huge bridge that comes across here. Awesome, works well. But the path to it just sort of appears out of nowhere. It's no problem that the castle's really hard to get to. But then why does it have like a huge gatehouse and a huge bridge when there's no real feasible way to get here with something that would need a gate like this, because all the paths are so small? And maybe that's like an issue of time, like, oh, there was a way to get here that was really good and easy, but now not anymore. But what you're communicating with this huge mountain that comes up here is that there isn't really a feasible way to get up there. So all of these things like speak to us subconsciously, right? We know what the need of a big gate is. It's for big things, but you can't get up there with big anything. I think we could have gone in either of the other directions of having it like be it like a smaller bridge across here, because there's no need for a big gate in that regard. But those are the kind of things that if you got like a really high scoring thing that we're going to be considering a little bit more. This just seems like a fun, we've got like a cool castle, we've got a dramatic landscape. It doesn't seem like it was on the forefront of your mind. It doesn't necessarily have to be, it's just something to consider really at the end of the day, isn't it? Like with all the stuff that I say, always take it with a pinch of salt. I think there's an issue with grain as well, because this feels very high grain because of the mushrooms and stuff. But even if we like look at these areas here with like, it just feels more grainy, but then we go along here and we literally like feel it, the grain disappear as we go around here, and this area just feels much more neglected despite the really cool castle that you've built. So yeah, it's a funny one. I'm really, in some ways I'm like really impressed with this, and in some ways I'm really, you can see where you've left the money on the table, as we keep talking about. You've clearly got really cool ideas, Tall JK, and I think the trick's going to be just keep practicing and finding new ways to marry all of your ideas together and bring them to a harmonious place where they're all supporting each other, and that's how you get a winning entry, because you've clearly got the good ideas. Let's move on to the next one. Techno Kiwi, this is a name we know. Techno Kiwi has done another pier. Techno Kiwi is addicted to piers, it seems. Something that we can say about Techno Kiwi is that they have a high degree of like hacking ability. Like if you look at this building over here, we've brought in these coaster elements to support this thing here. We've got, obviously the roof looks really cool. This architecture looking awesome. Hold on, what on earth is, why have we got just random Tudor walls on the side of this? Like truly random, like what on earth? Techno Kiwi, what's going on? Do we need to call an ambulance for you? So we get a little bit of a confused aesthetic there, but that's okay. We've got some nice gardens over here, and we've got this path that comes around here with the road as well. Nice to see. I'm not sure we've really achieved the verisimilitude that we might want from this. They just look like equally spaced. They almost look like parked cars, but they're obviously like, I don't even think that they really have to move necessarily, but it just comes across as a bit, I think that's come across as a little bit uncanny is all. Let's take a look at the roller coaster. Is there one starting off anytime soon? Oh yes, there is. So we got this lift hill, really nice sort of oldie styley covered lift hill there. We've got some covered switch elements around here. I guess something that we've, how much of the track do you have to have be the correct ride type? Because it feels like 50% of this is side friction track. It's a tricky one within the rules of the game. Do I have to police the rules of the contest? Do I mark it down for those things? Who knows? Does it just have to have 51% reverser track? I'm not going to touch it as like a rules violation. I don't think it really behooves any of us to start doing stuff like that. I'm just going to appreciate it for what it is. Really cool little boat over here. Some nice rides over here. I think we're missing a little bit of the macro good stuff. Like this just feels a bit naked up here. Feels like a missed opportunity, doesn't it? We could have done almost anything along this line here, couldn't we? And that's definitely what they would do. But then we're struggling for Plaza Ridge. We're always wanting Plaza Ridge, and we're always being denied Plaza Ridge. Got a cool hanging shark thing going on here. Love to see it. So yeah, we've got a simple pier style roller coaster here. Not really much to discuss about it, really, is there? It works. It works in terms of the aesthetic, doesn't it? But I'm not really... My socks remain, sadly, firmly on my feet. And it's the same with the surroundings. I think we're missing a little bit of focus. It doesn't really feel very focused. It just kind of feels like you made a pier, you plopped some rides on it, and same with back here. We've got some buildings, but what do the buildings mean? Especially when we've got stuff like random Tudor walls just like stuck on the side. All in all, it kind of doesn't come to... It kind of like... When you zoom out, it feels like detailed and focused, but when you zoom in, it just feels a bit unmotivated. Like, I don't know why this is... Like, why is there a huge fountain here when you've got like have this just be like more of a plaza, you know what I mean? This is a prime situation to have it just be a plaza. Maybe you can have like a couple of like smaller planters in here for some more decorative trees as you come through like that, and already that feels a lot better to me. Just feels like it has a bit more verisimilitude. But this is too much fountain for this area. It's almost as much fountain as building, which, you know, maybe you want, but I feel like it doesn't do all that much for me. And then we've got these uncanny gardens over here. We've got a criminal right angle here as well. Just a shame, because you've done such a good job of bringing the diagonals in. So all in all, I'm really happy to see this from you, Techno Kiwi. I just wish that maybe it had a bit more substance, I suppose. But the level of execution you've got is really high. You're clearly very skilled with this game. I think you've just got to think a bit more about your design choices if you want to get a high score. But I really appreciate you submitting something for us today. Great to look through. Hope to see more soon. Next up, we've got Toby Wabohu. I'm just going to call you Toby, and I hope that's not offensive to you. Sometimes you get a username, and then you don't know what to do with that. Okie dokie, already from this zoomed out perspective, I'm thinking that I'm going to enjoy this one. You know, sometimes you can just tell, can't you? Similar to some of the other really effective ones that we've seen, the ride appears to be integrated really well into a landscape. And this is another one where we've got single wide paths, so we're cultivating this classic roller coaster tycoon aesthetic, which from what I can tell, is working really well for me. Maybe it's going to change when I get a bit more into it, but it appears like, where is our station here? This is what I want to know. Hello, is it this building over here perchance? No, it doesn't look like it. So this is our entrance. Or rather, here's our station. I think first and foremost, we could have done way more with this queue. Why are we neglecting the queues when we've done everything else so very well? And I think the thing that was screaming out to me that I'm noticing here, that same thing that I was talking about with Lurker, this way that you've been able to shape the foliage here. This is textbook, really, really good foliage here. We are using these veins to affect the way that we view the situation. And a lot of it is, don't get me wrong, you kind of got to follow your instinct a little bit because you don't know what it's going to end up like. But I feel like, Toby, you have a really good instinct for this kind of thing. Foliage is really popping off this sort of area. We're loving it. We're loving it. We're loving the more open areas. Works really well with the contrast with this area here. Some people just have the instinct to like, they're sort of just like, well, we've got an open area, well, we can't have that, you know? we need to just like spam trees in there. And just look how much worse that is. And that is how some of the other parks sort of feel like they're going about it. But Toby Wabohu. Oh my goodness. I should end up in prison for my just complete failure to know how to pronounce things. I'm so sorry. But let's follow one of these through. Fantastic foliage. The foliage, I can't compliment the foliage enough. We got immediately into this switchback up here. That is awesome. Really, really good statement opening piece there. We're going down and inside or emerging over here. The foliage is great, by the way. I feel like I should bring that up. And then we're going into an underground switchback here, inside here. I don't necessarily like doing the underground stuff, but also we've got this drama here. We're implying that we're going to end up hitting one of these things, but we go and we avoid those cruel fates. I think that we really need to... it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I want for those... Like, let's pause it. I want for these, like, switchback moments to be a bit more like this, like where we can see them, but also I kind of appreciate the... You've designed an aesthetic, like you go into these sheds, you turn around, and that's sort of how it is. So kind of like repetition legitimizes, doesn't it? You know, you've got the shed over here, you've got the shed here, we're going to have a switch around in here, I'm sure. It works, you know, repetition legitimizes. And we're really leaning into, I feel like a lot of the best ones that we've seen today really lean into the aesthetic of the reverser roller coaster, and they don't try and avoid it. And having these big long straight sections in these idyllic environments, like really great framing here, and this helix that's like comes down over here really, really works. Like we can look down and see all this drama happening down here. And then we're going up and over a bridge. We've got like a water wheel feature kind of thing over here. Down into the brakes. Oh, we get off here. I see. This is the exit building. And then we magically teleport back up here using secretive jiggery pokery. I think if we are going to have like wooden coaster support structure here, you just want to get rid of the other... Oh, it's because it's scenery. I see. Okay. We don't want to have like a supporting structure like that and like that. We definitely want to let the wooden coaster do its job of supporting. But I guess that's... Yeah, maybe we need to grab this one and bring it in a bit more to help us appreciate it. And then it would do the job that support structure was doing in sort of framing the path that goes underneath it. Let's open up your one again. So yes, I think we definitely need to take this queue, let it just come around here a little bit, maybe go through this vein of trees here and then go back into here. You've left money on the table. This is what we're always talking about. We're always leaving money on the table, guys. The biggest crime of all. Lost potential. And then we've just got a really cool monster truck ride, framed really well. Nice station. I think we could have done with a bit more plaza edge. Where are we going into? This is called Timber with a 1 in it. You love to see it. So the entrance is inside of here, and there is sort of like a plaza, but we've not... What's this plaza realistically doing? It's not like... We've not got a great deal to see in this plaza, and it's sort of like... It's hidden as well from like this angle. It's also hidden from this angle because we've got these trees pushing up against it. Same with this one over here. I feel like that's the area that I'd say... Toby, improve on this as a priority. I'd say get your plazas in there because everything else is so strong. I like how you're using the path to help like highlight and accentuate the cool aspects of your ride design. I really like how you've put the stone texture underneath. It feels very like gravelly to me. The aesthetic is so strong here. I think I'm going to give this a 10 for the ride design. I feel I can't quite give it a 10 for the other stuff because of some of the stuff I've mentioned. But that aside, you know, it's awesome. I love the aesthetic that you've gone for. The foliage works really, really, really well. It's got a really nice supporting ride. Something tells me that there's... Because we saw this under here. This isn't a ride though, right? This is just... Yeah. This is just a bit of leftover track. That's okay. Got some rowboats down here. In terms of the architecture. I think we can do more with the architecture overall, but it's not terrible. So the things that we're saying, improve your architecture, get a bit more from your plazas. You've done a much better job of plazaing down here, which I think is really nice. I like the Roller Coaster Tycoon 1 aesthetic with the single wide paths. I feel like that works really well. It can go either way sometimes, and you've just really leveraged it in a pleasing way. So just more consideration with your bigger paths in terms of like choosing plazas and helping influence the guest experience by using your paths, which you've done really well up and around here. Really good aesthetic there. But we need to do it a bit more here as well. So this is like a theater display here. Why is it kind of like half hidden behind this house? You know, we could have this. Why not plop this here so we've got like a focal point over here? I guess you've got a focal point with the Kibitos thing that you've got going on here. So yeah, in the downsides, I'm thinking more considered plazas and guest experience stuff in terms of your bigger paths and architecture. I think we just need to lean a bit more into that architecture. But apart from that, really strong aesthetic you've got here. Really dominates the landscape in the best kind of way, and really, really good foliage. It's just nice to see an interesting kind of bridge up here, kind of for nobody. Completely over-engineered, but it does look nice. So yeah, awesome to see. I don't think I've seen anything from you before, so I'm excited to see more stuff from you. Especially if we can bring all aspects of this like coaster design and stuff into the other areas of your building, you are going to be winning these competitions like easy. I loved this one. Loved your foliage. Really, really, really good foliage. It's not hard as well, guys. You know, when you look at it, you think, oh, that's really simple. Clump your trees together into organic shapes, and that's it. You know, just don't spam plants everywhere. It's not hard. Let's move on to the next one. Exciting stuff. Thank you for your submission, Toby. Topher McBum. This is another one with another name we saw last time. This one's got a really nice aesthetic as well. We get a bit repetitive in these textures though. That's just sort of a problem with the texture and why you've got to be a bit more discerning when you're using them. But let's have a watch of the ride. Sawtooth it's called. We drop down here, we flick around, and we immediately lose it. So that's nice. Oh, it comes backwards up this way. We flip back around and we're disappearing up here. Then we go up a little bit and then we drop back down and we go onto the switch track. I feel like everybody understood the assignment when they heard reverse a coaster. They all went, there's more than one way to reverse a coaster. So here's something that we typically want to avoid, right? We've got track hidden behind other track, and that's just a problem with the very nature of isometry. And it's just something you got to live with and not fall victim to, but we have a little bit here. Then we're coming around here and we are getting back to the station, it seems. Really cool, like nice little ride here. It's giving supporting ride though. I think we are also struggling to really articulate where it is and where it's going. I really like these structures around here. I like this supporting thing here, very dramatic near the waterfall as well. You're going backwards and you can hear the waterfall fast approaching. Really, really cool. We've got the implication of a rapids ride over here. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with that kind of stuff, but I think you've done it in a cool, unobtrusive way there, so that's nice. In terms of the macro, it's really nice that you've got these waterfall elements going on here, but in terms of like the path macro, we're suffering from a lack of plazarage, and I feel like that could be the name of this episode, lack of plazarage. Let's look at what the queue's doing. Really nice to see this come through the structure and stuff, but I feel like we could have pushed this directly onto the path. Let's grab a little bit of this stuff from over here. I will maybe get rid of this here, traumatize those guests, and we'll push out a little bit here. Thank God for, so now we've got a bit more of a plaza going on here, and then if we bring the queue like out onto the plaza, then suddenly, or maybe like starting it down here, we have the queue go from here and then we can use this area a little bit. Very, very claustrophobic. Give yourself a bit more room to do some more with it. And this big long straight bit of path which really leads to nowhere, right? Quite literally. You want to be leveraging the way that the guests see the world, which is sort of straight ahead. You want to be engineering the way that they walk to point them towards things that are significant. So if we put the queue down at the bottom here, as opposed to like hiding it around the corner, suddenly we've engineered their perspective as they walk down here to go towards the thing that they should be going towards and not having to sort of hunt for it. Hunting around corners for stuff is the death of fluid guest management. Really cool to see this little market over here. It's giving that one which did well in the last one. There was a Wild West. There was a Wild West one in the last Ride Creation Contest, so it feels like a bit of that magic has rubbed off on Topher McBum here, which is nice to see. All in all, I think there's there's really strong bits like this bit here. If we just captured we cut off this top part. I don't feel like I can fit all of it in if I zoom in another step. If we maybe in post, if I remember to do it, I'll just crop this image a little down and I'll zoom it in a little bit to make just a fantastic screenshot. But then it just becomes a bit garbled, and all of this like really cool macro work that you've done here gets lost when you just have like T-bone right angles of path that don't really flow to each other. And yeah, it's just a shame. Missed opportunity. We've left money on the table, guys. We're always leaving money on the table. I like this coaster, but there's some stuff that just precludes me from giving it too high a score. And a lot of it's just very hidden in a way which feels frustrating rather than thrilling. It's difficult to score these things because you've got to take so many things in your brain to the scoring process. But at the end of the day, it's my score and no one's going to kill me for my score. I did mention in the comments section of last video that maybe I'm the vote to get. You know, if you get a high vote from me, it really means something. It's like I'm the harsh restaurant critic in Ratatouille, but I'm more nice. I'm nice. I'm a nice Ratatouille restaurant critic, and that's how I want to be remembered. Thank you so much, Topher McBum. Really fun to look through this one and discuss it. Let's get on to, this is the last one. Oh, what a shame. We're now onto Zwaney. Let's hop on in there, shall we? Ooh, okay, there's a lot going on in this one. Again, we're starting paused. Right, what have we got here? A reverser coaster, no less. Who could have predicted? Interesting. Wow, very interesting. Is this a real thing? If this isn't a real thing, that's awesome. I really, really like how you've brought this into life. It feels a little bit like a response to a problem that you shouldn't have. So you've trapped yourself in here with no real water treatment, ride, maintenance area. You've not got a lot of room to really leverage that in this particular amount of space. I feel like that's a problem you shouldn't have. That being said, your solution to the problem that you shouldn't have is a fun one. So great work with that. We've got a huge structure. What? Interesting. Is this a real type of ride? We're suffering a bit from like mixed aesthetics here, aren't we? It's not really coming together in a satisfying way. And we're suffering a little bit from why we're using ride trackers path-itis. Like, what is going on with the path? It's really hard to read like what the path is doing and where it's going. So I have discussed a lot about paths in this episode, so I will refer you to earlier parts of the video. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but that's something that we're bearing in mind. This is a really nice aesthetic you've got going on here. Feels very ancient. I was gonna say ancient, very like Victorian Britain, which feels very ancient. But we're following this ride as it drops out of the station, goes into the first turnaround, and we are disappearing underground yet again. Why do you guys do this? Why are you hiding your roller coaster from me? Especially interesting moments like the turnarounds. And then we come up and over here. We're switching around. We're S-bending up into another reverse. Feels like something out of Baby Driver, that. It feels like a maneuvered pull. And then we are disappearing off into the mangroves and trees to presumably head back to the station. All right, very nice, very cool. You've got some very interesting architectural ideas going on here, which I appreciate, to say the least. And this is our ride vehicle maintenance situation here. Appears that is the exit and the entrance is up here, which is nice. Very cool. And then crammed into this corner here, we've got this. We've got another coaster here. Let's watch this one, see how we feel. I don't like the colors at all. I think colors are something that we're struggling a bit with in this one, to my taste. Then we go through the loop like that. Very good, very nice. And back to the brake run. Doesn't look like we've got ride maintenance very much on this one. Very interesting. It appears that there's some bits, like this is top tier over here. This solution to a problem that we shouldn't have in the first place. Works really well. We've got good access to maintenance there. There's not really, like, who is accessing this? And then we've got a lot of this ride is just straight up hidden from a lot of angles. And that's something that we do want to avoid for the most part. And then we've got a hidden drop here, which we can't see from literally any angle. Again, you're hiding your drama. This is how we should be doing all of it. This looks awesome. Coming down near this waterfall over here. Nice, nice, nice. So I don't know whether you forgot to hit the enter button, but this just feels very unfinished compared to the rest of it. Just not good. You've done a good job of like literally putting a path here, but we don't get to appreciate these things in the same shot. I can't see this path here. I have to turn the camera around to see that there's a path here. We should be plazaing out this area to let people look at this. You've clearly staged it in such a way as to be, oh, people are going to be looking at this. It's got a huge drama and all of this stuff, and all of that is amazing and wonderful. But for whom? There's no way to really appreciate it. And this single path thing, I feel like it works back around here because it feels like a different vibe over in this direction. And using these random path types, these random ride types as paths, not working for me at all. We've got a million different types of pathitis here as well. Sorry if you can hear the dogs barking. Like this part over here is wonderful. This works really well. It has really nailed the cafe aesthetic here. I can really imagine that. But then we've got confusing stuff like, why are you going up and then down for the queue for this ride? That doesn't make any sense. Just have it be at the flat part and then head down. Yes, very confusing, this one. I do, however, appreciate you submitting. I think we've just got to think a bit more about rotating our camera. It almost feels like, oh, you view it from this angle, and this is the angle that you view it from. But, however, I have the enter button, you know? And clearly you want us to view it from this angle because you've got this cool window here, but then behind the cool window, you've got this. Confusing, Zwaney. I can see the potential. Really cool building here. Like this top of here, I think it gets a bit confused as we look at the other layers of the station. It gets a bit garbled, but the roof looks really awesome. I simply don't know why this is a Tudor roof going up here. That's typically like way more urban, but it's cool. I like the idea of the garden as well. I feel like that aesthetic really works, but we've got like a complete absence of clear ways of guiding the eye to help us as the guest sort of experience this park. And then with Grounder, I feel like this is called, yes, it's called Grounder. There's no way for the guest to experience that at all, apart from like going on rides. You know, we should bring like some paths through here so they can see all of this drama. There's no way, because if they look from here, this is the only way that they can really see this situation from a path. And you can't really see it because there's rides in the way. So it's a bit of a confusing one. This feels like a completely unmotivated roller coaster to be here as well. There's not really much way to get over there because it just feels so choked. So yeah, I won't harp any more on the negatives. Let's have a look finally at the positives. Really cool dramatic ride here. We need to give it more, it needs to be more grand, and we need to have more ways for the guests to see it. Imagine if instead of this here, you had like a huge plaza here and they could stop and look at it, and maybe some like restaurants and stuff on here. We've jammed a lot of stuff into this corner. We've got this that's up against this ride, that's up against this building that houses this ride. You know, we've not given it enough room to breathe. This, really awesome. I just wish that you'd let us view it from other angles in a good way as well. In terms of the actual roller coaster, it's not really that interesting. Maybe it's because it's the last one we've seen, but I'm just kind of like, oh, and then it reverses, and then, yeah. And then it gets back to the station. I like how it takes us on this journey and lets us explore this back area, because it is, of course, called Explorer. But apart from that, I feel like it suffers a little bit from lack of vision. Like I feel like this has a clear vision of like going through the undergrowth here, but then for the rest of it, we're just kind of like, nah. And then we're suffering a little bit from aesthetic clash doesn't really, and I know it's like a garden where it's got like a lot of different things going on, but I like this building, and then I like this cafe here, and I like this building, and I like this one as well, but they're not really, there's not a marriage there. They don't feel connected, because not only do we not have like a good strong path aesthetic, it's coming through super garbled because we've got 59 different types of ride track that are being used as path as well. I wouldn't bother next time. I'd stick to, let's do one park with one path type, clearly motivated path that guides us towards these really, really, really cool features that you've got. But then again, all of that stuff, listen to the earlier parts of the episode. But thank you very much, Swaney. I'm really glad that you entered into the contest. It's so great to see so many entries. Oh, crumbs. It's really hard to do such a subjective thing, isn't it? Alrighty, let's do our outro looking at Hobion's Park. Really, really cool. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much to the people who entered as well. Really appreciate you guys. It's so fun to look through these parks and not just like enjoy them as I obviously have, but also like give feedback on them. It really helps my own game. I hope it helps your guys' game as well. Let me know if you would like me to go into any more detail on any of the subjects that I touched on this episode, or if I know that a couple of people have reached out and say like, I want you to go into a bit more detail, really rip my thing apart if you want to. If you want that, you can put a comment down below saying, oh, my username is this one. Can you take a bit more of a detailed look at this one? How would you have changed it if you'd, say if we had another month left to build on it and I've sent you this, what would you say? You need to change this, this, and this. I'm more than happy to do stuff like that. Thank you for all the comments, guys. Thank you for all the likes, all the subscribes. We'll see you in the next one.